Perfect. All right, well, we're going to go ahead and get started here. I'm sure we'll have some more folks join here as we're kind of diving into some stuff. But we'll go ahead and get right on. So appreciate you guys jumping on today. I know we have like an 80-degree day. We've all been waiting for this weather, and we finally got it this week. So I know it's a super nice day out, but I do appreciate you guys jumping on the call tonight. A big thank you to Adam and Phil, both AJGA staff members that hopped on this call as well. They're going to talk to, we're going to kind of start with the Philadelphia Junior Tour, kind of talk a little about what we do here, what our goal is, the type of events that we run and how to really use our events to benefit and to improve, as well as kind of the junior golf landscape a little bit. So for those of you who do not know me, my name is Zach Zerbo. I'm the Junior Tour Director here at the Philadelphia PGA section. I'm going into my third season here. If I've not met you and you guys see me at a tournament this season, please come up to me and introduce yourself. I've met a lot of you guys so far, but if I've not met you, please come introduce yourself at one of our tournaments this year. We'd love to get to talk to you and interact with each and every one of you. A little bit of quick background from me. Back in college, I had no experience in golf. Didn't really know what I wanted to do. I actually found the AJGA internship once I graduated, and I was a traveling operations intern with the AJGA in the summer of 2023. I actually worked probably 4 events, I believe, with Adam as my tournament director at the time. But I really, really enjoyed my time with the AJGA. The internship was awesome. I got to work kind of the East Coast. I think I worked 16 events, kind of all on the East Coast from Florida to Maine. And it really, gave me my passion for working in golf and specifically for working in junior golf. And it's ultimately the reason why, I'm in my position now. So, big thank you to the AJGA for giving me that opportunity. For those of you who may be going to college or university soon, and, maybe you're in your sophomore, junior year and you're thinking about what you want to do, I definitely recommend checking out the AJGA internship. It was an awesome opportunity. I learned a lot. And ultimately for me, it kind of led me to my role here now. That was just a quick little background, but we'll go ahead and get started. So the Philadelphia Junior Tour, what do we kind of offer? So I know a lot of you guys, you sign up for events, you come play, and then you kind of do it again. But just to kind of go over, what we really do here. So, we offer 6 different age divisions. So, we have boys and girls. We have 13 and 15, 16 and 18, and 12 and under as well. So we have a lot of different age divisions that we offer, golf to. Our region, if you guys aren't aware, we're in the Philadelphia area. We go as far as west to State College. We go north to Scranton. We cover southern Jersey and also Delaware, and then we touch parts of Maryland as well. It's kind of where all of our tournaments reside in those areas. We offer 1-day events. We offer 2-day events. And we have roughly, over 85 events per year. So right now, I think we're at 89 for the season. We still haven't finalized the fall schedule, but we'll probably be over 90 events for this season. So, we offer a lot of different tournaments all around this area. You have opportunity, build your golf resume, for college, for AJGA applications. But, you can use our events to, ultimately, build your college resume or, whatever you're trying to pursue. And then just kind of learning, tournament routines and etiquette, with so many events that you guys get to play in, you kind of get on that system of, you're going to do this at the event and, have a warm up and everything like that. So just learning all the etiquette, replacing divots, how to compete with other players. So we offer a lot of different opportunities, but then competing on the Philadelphia Junior Tour. So the key message here is, the Philadelphia Junior Tour, we are here to develop junior golfers, develop their game through competition. We are not the top of the top junior golf program, but we're here to help you guys improve, see you guys improve as a player, as a person, and to see you guys succeed. So the experience that you get gained, while competing with us, you obviously get to check in at the starting tee, get your scorecards, go over all the local rules for the round. When you're done with the round, you're going over your scores, responsible for that, signing a scorecard. Guys get to experience a lot of different rule situations. You get to compete against other strong juniors. We have a lot of really strong juniors that play in our events. So, getting to compete, and getting that experience is really great. We run these organized tournaments at all these different golf courses. Every single golf course is different. And we're lucky that in the Philadelphia area, there's a lot of really cool golf courses that we get to go to, a lot of private clubs that are awesome. And each course is a little bit different. So, with how many events that we run, there's really a variety of golf courses. You get to learn tournament experience just by playing in our events. You're getting that experience. It's different than playing, with your buddies, just in a fun, round of golf, competing in a tournament. It's a different feeling. You get to learn that golf etiquette of really how to compete, in a tournament. What is a tournament like? What are the things I need to do? With our events too, you can track your scoring average, and just tracking improvement. You want to improve. You don't want to stay the same, throughout your entire junior career. You really want to see yourself improve. And, the Philadelphia Junior Tour, we offer that opportunity with, all these different events, getting to deal with all these situations. The rulings, is another really big thing. We have rules officials out there. Maybe you see me, helping you out with the ruling, getting to learn, the rules of golf. It's huge, and, it can be complicated at times. We hope that, the overall goal is really develop your game, through competition and through our events. Kind of just talk about the junior golf pathway. So Philadelphia Junior Tour, we offer local competition. As I kind of mentioned, it's in the Philadelphia area. It's in southern Jersey. We touch parts of Maryland and Delaware, but it's kind of local competition. You're competing a lot of kids you compete against who they live in this area. But kind of the pathway of junior golf is playing in local competition, like the Philadelphia Junior Tour, and then kind of moving your way up to regional, to state tours, to higher level events, and hopefully keep going up to national competition. Like the AJGA, they run events all over the country. It's not just kids from that state; it's kids come from all over different areas of the country to compete and play in these events. And then kind of going from national competition to hopefully going to college golf. Getting a scholarship, playing collegiate golf, at a higher level. But the main point of this slide here is that most top juniors, they're going to start locally. They're going to gain experience. They're going to move on to national opportunities, similar to AJGA events. So, if you're a 12 and under division, player right now, it's great that you're already starting tournaments at such a young age. You want to keep building off that. Keep moving up, playing, in higher level stuff, getting the experience, the comfort. And so how to use, the junior tour the right way. There's all different types of things, but, playing consistently, with how many events that we have, we hope that we can get you guys into as many events, you desire, competing in multiple events throughout the season. You don't want to just play in one event, every single year, and that's it. You want to play in, multiple events if you can, if it's possible. You want to play a couple in the spring, maybe a couple in the summer, maybe in the fall too, kind of keeping consistency throughout the year. Building comfort in tournament settings, like I mentioned earlier, playing around with, your friends, it's much different than, competing in tournament setting. You're playing with people you've never met before. Maybe you're playing with someone that's the best player you've ever played with. It's something different. You're not used to that. But tracking your scores is another great point of how to use our program. You don't want to stay at that consistent score all year. You want to track your scores, see if you're improving. Maybe you played in an event last year and you're playing it again this year. Did you improve from last year to this year? Identify strengths and areas to improve. If it's off the tee that you're struggling, maybe work on that part of your game. If it's in the bunkers, putting, chipping, if I know for myself, it's in the bunkers right now. That's what I'm working on because, it's a weakness of my game. So I'm trying to improve that. But really, not just coming to our events and, playing 18 holes and leaving and not really thinking about, what the tournament was and how you did, but, really seeing, if you're progressing, tracking, go home and have a notebook of the best shots you had today, the worst shots you have today, the highs and lows of the days, focus on improvement, so the goal is not to win right away. When you're in your first event with us, we're not expecting you to come out, shoot the best round of your life and do it, consistently. The goal is not to win right away, but it's to improve over time, so set goals for yourself just beyond winning. You might think the only thing you care about is to win, but ultimately that's not the biggest goal. The goal is to keep improving. work on lowering scores over time. So, use our events in a way where, you're not just coming to play 18 holes and, leave and just do it again, but, really, track your scores, focus on your improvement, what you need to get better on, is really just the biggest takeaway. And then using our junior tour to prepare for higher level events. So kind of going off what I just said, but challenge yourself. You're competing against strong players. Make a challenge for yourself. Embrace difficult course conditions and different courses. We run events the first week of March. It's 30 degrees. Sometimes it's even snowing, windy. But embrace that. Don't go into it with a bad mindset, but really embrace that difficult course conditions. It's going to be a tough day out there, but it's going to be a tough day for everyone. So, if you can stay locked in that whole round, you may end up on top. But yeah, growth happens when you're tested. You don't want to just have perfect weather and perfect conditions and your ball's in the middle of the fairway every single day or every single time. You're not really gonna really grow that way. And then just kind of bouncing back after a tough hole. In tournaments, it's really easy to have a double bogey and you put your head down, and that's just going to lead to another bad hole. But really bounce back after a tough hole. Get off that hole, and just regroup. Take a moment to breathe. Regroup and go out to the next hole and try to birdie it. Just forget about it. Bounce back. But treat events like bigger events. I think this is kind of the biggest key here is that come to our events and prepare like it matters. Imagine that our event is an AJGA event or college golf event. Develop a pre-round routine. Warm up, get to the driving range at a specific time. Do your routine, go to the putting green, whatever your routine may be. But try to develop a pre-round routine. Maybe it's eating a meal before the round as well. Play with a purpose. Not just to finish the round. Set goals for yourself. Think away around the course. Every course is different. So, how are you going to manage, your shot capability during your rounds? Maybe you're having a great round going and there's a par 5 that you're trying to go for with your second shot, but maybe there's a creek to the left and you've been, pulling your 3-wood all day. Maybe that time you're just going to hit an iron and lay up, so really you try to use course management the best way you can. And that comes with experience. And then just staying mentally locked in from the first tee to the last putt. It's hard when you have a tough hole or it's a hot day, it's hard to really stay locked in, but it's really, really crucial. And just trying to stay locked in, from the start of your round to the end of your round, and then just build habits that, are going to translate to higher level events. The overall goal of this slide is, use junior tour events or our junior tour events is, a way to prepare for higher level competition, not just to compete, but really, really prepare yourself. All right, so now we're going to dive into some of the AJGA stuff, and then I'll pass it off to Phil and Adam to go through their slides. Don't have too much here. But so a lot of you guys probably joined this conversation. You probably heard of the AJGA. Maybe you see the PBE status or the stars on our website, and you may be really confused. And maybe that's why you hopped on today, which is great. Adam and Phil are going to kind of dive into a little bit more about, PBE status, stars, how, the whole operation works. But obviously we do run 1 and 2 day tournaments. Some of our 2-day tournaments are AJGA PBE status approved. So we submitted them to AJGA and they approved, the ones that were approved. And those ones we have 6 of them for 2026. So we already had Seaview Golf Club, which took place back in March. We have Turtle Creek coming up in June. It's a 2-day event. All of these will be, 36 holes minimum. We're going to go up to State College. We have a 2-day event there at the blue and the white course. We also have our boys and girls junior PGA championships. Those are 36 holes in 1 day. Those are also AJGA ranked. We have the girls summer championship, which will be at Manufacturers Golf and Country Club as well, another 2-day event. So when you guys see these on our schedule, typically the picture on the right here, this is a Penn State example. We'll put in parentheses, this is a, ranked event. This is an AJGA ranked event. It's also a junior golf scoreboard. But we put the AJGA rankings on the page. So once we get them approved, we'll put them on the page, kind of notifying, what the stars are for the tournament. So you guys can always see this on our event websites. It'll be the AJGA PB status, and it'll show you, 2026, the status, that you're going to get. So, the champion, For the Penn State event, we get 4 stars. And if you're in the top 10% of the boys 13-18, girls 13-18, you get 1 star. But the champions would be getting 4 stars. That is kind of just how to read them a little bit, or if you're ever curious about, if what stars are possible to earn in these events, they're always on our event portals. And once we get towards the end of the conversation, I'll probably show you guys on our website where we have some more resources as well. That's kind of all I have at the moment. So I'm going to pass it off to Adam and Phil here, and they will kind of go through some of their slides. And then towards the end, we'll kind of open up for any questions that you guys may have. I'm going to stop sharing my screen here.
Awesome. Thanks, Zach. Yeah, let me share my screen, and we'll dive into it. All right, how's that?
All good.
Can see it? Perfect. Okay, so I'm going to dive into kind of some of the background here quickly, the AJGA, before passing off to Phil Rigo, who will dive into a lot of the nuts and bolts when it comes to navigating the AJGA, how to get into our events, and some of the PBE stars and status that Zach was just mentioning. But quick background overview of who the AJGA is. The AJGA is a 501c3 nonprofit organization, which we're dedicated to the overall growth and development of young men and women who aspire to earn college golf scholarships through competitive junior golf. So we're a membership-only organization of over 10,000 members, ages 12 to 19. So if you're 10, 11, 12 years old, this is the perfect conversation to kind of be listening to. And, even if you're, middle of high school and, maybe you're 16, 17 years old, a sophomore, junior, it's certainly not too late. We have plenty of opportunities for all age ranges within the 12 and 19-year-olds. But kind of quickly going into some of the growth and development, like beyond just the competitions, which we'll obviously dive into here more thoroughly, we really view ourselves as that organization that really sets up junior golfers to be, the next generation of golf, to be that next generation. Maybe it is collegiate golf, or it's just young professionals that go on to college or, careers after high school. And we see ourselves kind of playing a vital role in that. So we have several different programs that we really champion, our Care for the Course program, our code of conduct program. So we have, detailed policies on code of conduct, how to, conduct yourself when you're actually playing golf, what is the right policies and procedures. Care for the Course, all players are given a sand bottle on the starting tee. So they're expected to, fill their divots, replace their divots, fix ball marks. We have a thank you note writing program. This one's one of my favorite, that after each round, players will actually sit down in the scoring tent after they score their round, and they will actually write thank you notes to the host staff, to the sponsor of the event, anyone thanking them for actually allowing them the opportunity to play that event. The AJGA, we host events called Junior Ams, which is the AJGA version of a PGA Tour, LPGA Tour Pro-Am experience. This is a really great opportunity for AJGA players to play alongside, community supporters, people that are supporting the event, sponsoring, business professionals local to their community that want that experience. They want to support the event and our mission and the players, and it gives them a chance to kind of play alongside them. And then our foundation, they also run kind of two series of events: the State Cup Series, which are junior-led charity events, usually one-day outings that juniors will kind of take the lead, get friends of theirs to really, it's a team involvement to raise money for a charity. And then, we have a program called Leadership Links as well, that is individual junior-led charity and fundraising. They select a junior does a charity of their choosing that they want to raise money for. So there's, several programs even beyond these listed here that we really, we work hard to implement and, put in front of our juniors and their families to develop them more than just, on the golf course. So kind of going into, the exposure that you gain. This is the second part of our mission, is where we want to provide that platform for the junior golfers to be exposed to college golf recruiting. The AJGA has over 1,200 college golf members. Excuse me. So just like that juniors and their families are members of the AJGA, college coaches are also members of the AJGA. So kind of jumping ahead to this next slide, but we actually, whenever you join the AJGA, you get set up with a player center, and in that you get access to what's called the coaches corner. And essentially, this is where the coaches, their perspective, they will log into their account on the AJGA website, and they can go and individually look at previous tournament results, some stats. We have a new partner that you can you can actually record swing speed stats, ball flight data, and coaches have exclusive access to stuff like that for recruiting purposes. But when you play an AJGA event similar to the Philadelphia Junior Tour, I mean, you're getting a professional quality event in terms of course setup. We do full USGA rules of golf. There's no abbreviated rules at all. You'll have, we usually have 8 to 10 staff members on site for every event. Usually there's 8 or so rules officials actually following the groups, keeping track of pace of play, and they're in charge for all the starting and scoring and course setup and everything of the like. And of course, you're getting the experience. Most of our tournaments are 54-hole tournaments. So you get an official practice round, which doesn't really count towards the tournament itself. And then you get 3 18-hole rounds with your tournament. And those fields can be anywhere from 78 to 132 players even. And of course, you get the chance to play with regional and local players. And then you're also getting a chance to play with more national and even international players. So maybe some of the same players that you might see on a Philly Junior Tour or similar events, you might see competing in some AJGA events. So kind of jumping into, the value, what you actually get out of an AJGA membership and playing with the AJGA is, first, you get access to our player services team. And I like to highlight this one a lot, which you'll hear from Phil Rigo, who's on that team here momentarily. They are the experts when it comes to navigating the AJGA and junior golf in general. Like we know it, we don't really make it easy on families to navigate our events and learn how to actually get into events and play more events. So that's why we have a team that's dedicated to answering your guys' questions. They're on the phones Monday to Friday, 8:30 to 5, and they're there to be a resource. Like we're having this call right now that might go 45 minutes or so. They will sit on the phone with you for up to an hour answering your questions on specific events and how to get your son or daughter into more events. As I mentioned earlier, you get, with an AJGA membership, each junior will get their own player center or player profile, and you get access to that coach's corner as well. You get access to the college golf guide. I really like this tool. This is it's a proprietary tool that we partner with the college golf guide that you get through your AJGA membership, or a discounted version too, that you can actually input parameters on. Maybe you put your scoring average, what your GPA is, what type of school you want to go to, a big school, a small school, in this part of the country, or maybe down south. You put in those parameters, it will actually give you a list of target schools that kind of fit what your son or daughter is looking for. You get subscriptions to Global Golf Post and others, and then you get discounts to a lot of our industry partners, TaylorMade, Adidas, Callaway, Mizuho, Bushnell, other AJGA partners like that. And then you get access to the AJGA's Liberty National ACE Grant, which is our financial reimbursement program, which I'll touch on here in a slide or two. And then, of course, as I mentioned on the previous slide, you get access to, obviously, the tournaments. You get the AJGA staff that has 2 to 3 full-time staff members, 8 to 10 interns, like Zach mentioned. At the beginning of the call, he was an intern. I was an intern as well. You're getting those 3 to 4 rounds of golf. And then you get, obviously, all the tee gifts, food and beverage, social activity that comes in addition to the golf itself at a tournament. This is a really good slide. I like to show families because golf can be an expensive sport, and we'll go into the next slide on that ACE grant program. But the AJGA, we really pride ourselves on the work that we've done at actually reducing fees. So most organizations, not just in golf and pretty much any youth sports or any business recently, are increasing costs. And the AJGA hasn't increased costs actually in over 10 years. And we're actually been reducing fees for the last 4 to 5 years. And our tournament entry fees, our player membership fees are at the levels that they were in actually the mid 2000s. So we've been trying to make strides to partner with companies that will, put us in a position to be able to afford to actually reduce fees and reduce the out-of-pocket expenses of our juniors and their families to play in our events. And then, excuse me, kind of the last slide here that I'd really like to highlight before I pass it off to Phil is the AJGA's Liberty National ACE Grant. It's our financial reimbursement program. So we created this, and it's essentially for families and for juniors that have the skill, the talent, and ability to play in AJGA events, but the families might not have the financial means or wherewithal to travel to pay that entry fee and go play in a 3 or 4 day tournament. So this reimburses up to $7,000 per year per junior playing in our events and other other junior golf events. So you could play in a Philly Junior Tour event that you might have to travel for, like to State College, and you can get reimbursement for some of those events. So I always encourage people to look this up and look more into it on our website because it's a great tool and a great resource for families. And there's an email there. It's just our foundation runs it, but there's info all over the website for families that want to learn more. And then I'll kind of kick things off to Phil Rigo, who's manager in our player services department, to talk more about some of the opportunities, playing opportunities that is on the AJGA going into different types of tournaments and how to actually gain entry into those.
Thank you, Adam. Hi, everyone. My name is Phil Rigo. As Adam said, I'm the manager of player services here at the AJGA. And in our department, we all focus on the general customer service for our membership, and we each also focus on specific duties. So me specifically, I oversee tournament fielding for all of our non-invitational events. So I'm the one that oversees the process of posting the fields online, selecting the fields, and opening the applications, things like that. But kind of jumping into an overview of our membership, last year we had over 10,500 members, about 74% boys, 25% girls. We covered all 50 states. We covered 54 countries, and we had 153 tournaments and 124 qualifiers, all coming together to over 22,000 playing opportunities last year. With the 54 countries, I would say about almost 10% of our members are actually international. So like Adam was saying earlier, if you're at an AJGA tournament or even a qualifier, you might be playing with players from other states or from your region, but also players from all over the world. Going into the different types of events that we offer, we have qualifiers, previews, junior all-stars, opens, invitationals, and senior showcases. We have a lot of different classifications, and just kind of briefly going over them one by one. Qualifiers are one-day 18-hole events attached to almost all of our tournaments. Most of our non-invitationals have a qualifier, and the design of them is if you apply to the tournament and you don't meet the criteria to get in, you can then apply to the qualifier. The qualifiers are fielded based on playing opportunities, so players who have the least amount of playing opportunities in the AJGA this season will have the highest priority to get into a qualifier. If you play in the qualifier, you can earn performance stars. And with that, if you finish in the top 10% of the qualifier, you will actually qualify into the tournament that it's attached to. We always save spots for the top 10% of finishers in our tournament through the qualifier. We also have the preview series. Previews I would definitely recommend for new members who are new to the AJGA. They're designed to be a player's first tournament with us. So our opens and our junior all-stars are mainly fielded based on our performance-based entry system, which I'll get into shortly. Previews are fielded based on playing opportunity, kind of like our qualifiers. So for someone who's never played and doesn't have the performance stars to get into a tournament, they can apply to a preview and potentially get in based on having never played an AJGA event before. We fill those based on graduation year, oldest to youngest. The junior all-stars are 12 to 15-year-old events, and those events are fielded based on our performance star system. And then opens are the most common type of event on our schedule. They're for all ages, 12 to 19, and they're also fielded based on performance-based entry or performance stars. Invitationals are our highest level events on the schedule. They each have their own specific criteria, but they're mainly based on our AJGA Rolex rankings. So I would say in general, those invitationals, you're typically seeing players that are in around our top 100 in the Rolex AJGA rankings. And then finally, we have senior showcases, which are events that we have at the end of the year in conjunction with the college coaches associations having their yearly conference in Las Vegas. We have our senior showcases in Las Vegas, and it's an opportunity for unsigned seniors to get a final chance to play in front of college coaches. Going on to our performance-based entry system, you'll hear parents or staff refer to PBE, performance-based entry, performance stars. It all means the same thing. It's a system we introduced back in 2003. It's an objective system used to determine our AJGA tournament fields, mainly for our opens and junior all-stars, like I mentioned. Juniors can earn PBE stars at national, regional, and state events. So it's not just AJGA tournaments and qualifiers. You can earn them, like Zach was saying, there are Philly Junior Tour events you can earn them in, or you could earn them potentially in other organizations as well. We do a PBE audit each year, so we're very careful with how we distribute the stars, and we want to make sure we're always reflecting our membership and where they're located, how many members we have, both domestic and international. So as Zach was saying, these other organizations will submit their events for approval, and they have to meet certain field size and history requirements to be recognized and approved. And then with our own events, we're always evaluating the amount of stars we're giving out for our own tournaments as well. We try to balance the opportunities regionally as much as we can to try to cover all of the country. Going into how to earn stars, in all AJGA events, we always say the minimum number, the magic number is the top 50%. So if you're playing in an AJGA tournament or qualifier, as long as you finish in the top 50% of the field, you'll earn at least 1 star. And then from there, you can earn more depending on what type of event it is and how well you do. And then for non-AJGA events, it varies. Just depending on the field size and the history of that event, we will distribute stars. Overall, I would say you can't earn quite as many stars outside of the AJGA. Our system is ultimately focused on our own events overall, but you can earn a lot of stars by playing just events locally that you might have been planning on playing in anyways. Also, you get membership stars based on your graduation year. So that's where it says that AJGA membership 321. Juniors or rising seniors, as we like to say, they will start with 3 membership stars, and then sophomores and seniors start with 2 membership stars, and then anyone a freshman or younger will start with 1 star. So that's a little bonus at the start of each year to help with getting your PBE accumulated. We have over 1,100 non-AJGA events recognized, and we have our own schedule, which I can show later on how to find those events. But a lot of state juniors, PGA sections, organizations like that are recognized for stars. Looking at AJGA tournament fields, we typically will reserve about 70% of the field for boys and 30% for girls, and that's keeping it proportionate to our AJGA membership. A little bit less than 30% of our membership are girls, so we try to keep that proportion. We have what's called fully exempt status, and you'll hear a lot about fully exempt. If you finish top 3 in an open tournament, you then become fully exempt, which is the highest PBE status you can have in the AJGA. At that point, you're no longer, when you apply to the event as fully exempt, you're no longer judged based on how many stars you have. You're just simply fully exempt. So it supersedes any number of stars. There are a few events on our schedule that are all fully exempt players, just with there are certain tournaments that the demand is that high. And if we have a tiebreaker situation like that, where it's all fully exempt players, we will rank them based on our AJGA Rolex rankings to determine who gets in that case. If you earn stars or earn fully exempt status, those stars will last for the rest of the year you earned it in, and then all of the following year as well. So anything you earned in 2026, you'll keep for the rest of 2026, and then you'll also have it for all of next year too, and it won't expire until the end of 2027. And the same goes for fully exempt. For the qualifier, we will reserve 10% at minimum for the tournament field. Sometimes that number can be more if we have any last-minute withdrawals from the tournament. We will fill those spots through the qualifier leaderboard as well, but it'll always be at least the top 10%. Our typical qualifiers are 78 players, about 54 boys, 24 girls. So we will, when we say top 10%, we'll round up. So usually it's like the top 6 boys and top 3 girls at least qualifying into the tournament through the qualifier. And finally, we do have committee exemptions, and it can be a hot topic sometimes. We do reserve a few spots in all of our tournaments for exemptions for the tournament committee. This can go to sponsors, the golf course, the committee. It's just our way of giving back to those parties that for helping make these events possible. And if you receive a committee exemption, all you have to do is apply to the tournament. If you receive that spot from the committee, they'll let us know that they're using it on you, and we'll make sure that you're included in the field. We try not to have an overwhelming amount of exemptions because we want our fields to be performance-based overall, but it is something that you see at the professional level too, but there being exemptions, whether it's PGA, LPGA, Korn Ferry, etc. So it is an aspect of tournament fielding for us as well. Qualifiers, I kind of touched on this a little bit, but our qualifiers are open to AJGA members and potentially non-members. By that, if we didn't get enough applications through our membership, we will reopen our qualifiers occasionally to non-members to fill any spots that we still have, whether it be in the field or just to build an alternate list. But we will always open the field to our members exclusively first. We would only reopen it if we don't have enough applications from our members. But qualifiers are one of the best ways to get started with the AJGA because they're fielded based on playing opportunity. So we're not looking at how many stars you have for a qualifier. We're just looking at how many AJGA events you've been accepted into this year, and the less that number is, the higher your priority. So someone who hasn't played an event with us yet in 2026 has the first priority for a qualifier, and if we have tie-breaking, we'll go to location. So we will, in a tiebreaker, go to a player from the state that event's held in before we go to other locations. We know people don't necessarily want to travel too far for a one-day qualifier, so we do try to prioritize the local players in the tie-breaking. The top 50% of the field will earn at least one performance star, like I said. And if you qualify in, you would still keep that PBE status that you earned in the qualifier. Looking at some yardages on average is just a breakdown of our scoring averages and our average yardages for each event. So you'll see the invitationals will be the longest, followed by opens. Junior All-Stars are 12 to 15-year-old events, so they are going to be shorter yardages by a few hundred yards on average. And then previews can vary. So with previews, we have some 12 to 19-year-old events, but we also have 12 to 15-year-old previews as well. Those events will say in the event title on the schedule, ages 12 to 15. So that's something to be aware of too. If you're in that 12 to 15 age group, you should probably focus on the 12 to 15 preview. It'll be easier to get into than a 12 to 19-year-old preview. But we often hear, like, what should I be scoring to be earning status or to qualify in? And we typically will tell players, as you see with the qualifier scoring average is in the high 70s for both boys and girls. If you're shooting in the 70s, you are putting yourself in a in a pretty good spot to at least earn a star or even potentially qualify into the tournament. For the preview series, this is just a breakdown of that specific event. So if you are in the top 50%, you'll get 1 star. Top 20 boys, top 10 boys, top 10 girls get 2 stars. And it works itself all the way up to a champion of a 12 to 19 preview would get 12 stars. So this is just showing how many you can get in a preview. Next will be the 12 to 15-year-old preview. So it'll be a little less just with it being shorter yardage, younger age group, but you can still get 8 stars maximum from a 12 to 15 preview. Then we have the junior all-stars. You can earn up to 12 stars in those as well. And then finally the opens. If you, like I said, you can finish in the top 3, whether even if you didn't win, if you're in the top 3 in an open, you would become fully exempt at that point. Finally, just a few things. If you're interested in getting involved with us, whether it's being a member or outside, if you were interested in sponsoring an event, or if you had a course referral, if you'd like your local course to host an AJGA event, I would definitely talk to Adam. Or if you wanted to join a committee or volunteer with us. We have a lot of different programs, so there's a lot of different ways you can get involved with us. One thing I'd like to add too, you do, in order to apply to events and play in events, you do need to be an AJGA member. Our memberships, we have a few different levels of membership, but you would need to be either the junior level, which is, I believe, $190 a year, or the junior plus, which is $285 a year. There's not an advantage in terms of getting into events with the junior plus versus the junior, but the junior plus has expanded features that are focused on college recruiting, more things you can put on your profile, and more access to programs that are focused on recruiting. So that's all I have. I don't know, Adam, if you have anything to add to before we open it up for any questions.
No, I don't think so. I think, Zach, I don't know if you want to open it up to any questions, if anyone has anything that we might be able to help address.
Yeah, as I say, if you guys have any questions, feel free to raise your hand, or if you want to type it in the chat, if there's any specific things. Yeah, Adam and Phil, I think you guys, kind of gave a great base. I'm sure a lot of people on the call are very new to the AJGA and just trying to learn and kind of navigate it. Yeah, if you guys have any questions, feel free to raise your hand or type them in the chat.
Yeah, and if not, I'm sure Zach will send it out afterwards. But please feel free to reach out to myself or Phil with any questions. Anything about our events or other events, we're here to be a resource to the families in the region to help navigate not just the AJGA but junior golf in general. So,
so we have one question.
Okay.
Or go ahead, Peter.
I was going to say, I'm while you're talking, I'm looking on the preview and the qualifier schedule. It looks like the whole summer hasn't necessarily been built out yet, has it?
We have.
So it has, yeah. So now, not all events are open for applications right now. I want to say only events through the end of June are open for applications. But all those July and August events are not right now. So they're there. So we know where we're going and the schedule's completed, but not open for applications right now.
It looks like a few of the application windows have already closed for like May events, for instance, right? Like April, May.
Correct.
Okay.
So any of those tournaments, whenever you're looking on our schedule page, you can actually go click on each individual tournament if it's activated. And at the bottom, if you just scroll near the bottom, in red, there's a dates to remember section.
Okay.
So you can see when the application deadlines are for all events, for tournaments and qualifiers. And generally, the rule of thumb is we close applications about 5.5, 6 weeks prior to an event. So those May events, like we have in the Northeast specifically, we get started actually next week, the last weekend of April. And those close like roughly May.
Yeah, Rehoboth Beach would look like a good one. Right.
Yes. Yeah. So that's one of those junior all-star events for 12 to 15-year-olds. And but yeah, that field gets announced about 5.5 weeks out.
Great, thanks.
Yeah.
Well, one question we had was, do any JGS junior golf scoreboard points factor into entries?
We do use junior golf scoreboard ranking as a part of our tie-breaking process. If for like an open or a junior all-star, if we have a tiebreaker at the amount of stars required, like there might be, maybe it took 10 stars to get in, but there are 2 players. We only have the spot for 1 of 2 players with the same amount of stars. There's about 9 steps of tiebreaking we go through, but part of it, we do look at junior golf scoreboard ranking, but it's not a big part of it. It would only come in deep into that tiebreaking.
Gotcha. It looks like another question. You guys may not know the answer off the top of your head, but the question was, is the open qualifier shorter than the actual open yardage? She said next week at Indiana. Or I guess she's asking about the yardage, if it's different with the open and the qualifier.
No, typically the qualifier is the same course setup as the actual tournament, whether that's an open, a junior all-star, or preview. There are some exceptions if it's an off-site qualifier, which we don't have many of them. I would say less than 10. We actually have off-site qualifiers. And the only difference is going to be the hole locations, obviously. But the yardage and the course setup is generally going to be the same between the qualifier and the actual tournament itself.
Cool. Awesome. Look at another question. They were asking if there's any type of webinar for the juniors themselves that go over the rules, expectations for players, I guess, prior to their first AJGA tournament.
So we don't have a webinar. Maybe that's something we could look to add. But Phil, I don't know if you want to touch on it, but I know that we have a lot of resources on our website. We have a whole section of the website dedicated to like that code of conduct policy that I mentioned earlier. The rules, we have what every competition committee and every organization or association, they have what is called a hard card. And those are like the local rules that are adopted from the USGA that are implemented at every event. So yes, there is plenty. We don't have a webinar, but there's plenty of resources on our website that we encourage families and juniors to kind of review before their first tournament with us.
Yeah, and I would say with that, in general, like the website has a ton of information. We do have some policies that are unique compared to other tours, like with pace to play, care for the course, code of conduct. We have spectator code of conduct as well. So that is all available online. And I would say too, just as you're looking at the website, like Adam said, I can't stress enough how much here, like us and player services are here to help. You can give us a call or send us an email, and we'll be happy to sit down and go through whether it's based on the schedule or certain policies or anything related to membership. We know it's a lot of information to throw at you at once, and the schedule can be complicated to look at with the deadlines and everything. So we'll be more than happy to spend as much time as you want. Monday through Friday, 8:15 to 5 p.m. we're available on the phone, and you can email us as well. We'll get back to you in 1 business day or less.
And Zach, one thing I want to add before you answer that follow-up question there, just something with the rules that I just thought of that I think is a really good tip for families and juniors that are just getting started with competitive golf is, we highlighted earlier the value of playing in events that you get access to all those staff members on site, those rules officials. I always encourage players and families and players of all levels, beginner to expert, to don't be afraid if you have a question or if they have a question while they're competing, like ask the staff members, ask the rules officials, wave them down, call them out. Because it's overwhelming. It's a lot when you're first competing, and it's a lot for anyone to remember the rules like that. And that's part of the experience and the value that you get for these events. Is we bring out 8 to 10 staff members to be a resource, so players don't get caught in a bad rules situation. So I know it's a lot for kids are studying for exams in school, and so they might not, or maybe they will study for the rules of golf, but that's why associations like us, the Philly Junior Tour, that we have staff members there on site to help address those questions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then kind of following up. So similar with kind of the hard card that they mentioned earlier. We have on our website I know we have all different information. We have a parents page, spectator policy, player policy, handbooks. We have our hard card on there. So yeah, feel free guys to, check out our website too, as far as tournament regulations. We have a code of conduct as well. We have a pace of play policy as well. So a lot of stuff that Adam and Phil kind of mentioned. We also have that available on the junior tour. There's another question here. Just looking. You guys may not know this one, but could qualifier and tournament scores be automatically submitted to GIN? I guess the question would be, would players have to manually still submit them?
Yes.
You guys know?
Yes.
Okay.
Players are responsible for uploading their own scores to GIN, both tournament and obviously recreational scores.
Mm-hmm.
But no, I think even if you play in like your local club or course event too, the tournament administrators, they don't have access to the individual GIN accounts to be able to upload those scores.
Mm-hmm. And then someone asks, is it recommended to go ahead and apply for a qualifier for a tournament if you don't think your junior will get in based on PBE status, or should they wait until the roster is
like a player
released?
services like 201 level question. Generally, it's a case-by-case basis. One thing I will say, when you apply to a tournament, you'll see on the apps received page, you can kind of get a good idea of what your chances are getting into an open or a junior all-star based on who's applied and how many stars everybody has. If you don't think you're going to get in, but you want to play in that tournament, I would still apply. There's no cost up front to applying to the event. And if you don't get in, you're automatically placed on the alternate list. And we always have withdrawals, and we always want to have a full field. So we'll keep reaching out to alternates to fill those spots. The way the deadlines work, you'll be able to apply to both the tournament and the qualifier at the same time. The tournament will be fielded first, and we'll post that field, and you'll be notified if you get into the initial field. And if you don't, you'll go on the alternate list, and you can see your position on the alternate list. And then the qualifier deadline is at the end of the same week. So that way, if you hadn't applied to the qualifier, you still have a few days to do that. Or if you got into the tournament and you're no longer interested in the qualifier, you can withdraw. But we do stagger the deadlines so that you can kind of make the informed decision about the qualifier if you want to.
Awesome. And then let's see. So I was asking just a reminder, I guess, like a preview event. Preview event is the first event players should participate in. Is that the kind of what you guys would agree with?
It depends on the specific player, and that if you're coming into the AJGA, you might be a new player, but you might have a lot of performance stars from other organizations and maybe not. But I would say in general, for a new player, a preview is the best way to get started if there's one that works with the schedule. And from a travel perspective, we do have a lot of our previews in the spring since they're designed to be a player's first event with us. So at this point, a lot of them have already been closed or already been played. But we do have some previews later in the year. I know for 12 to 15-year-olds, there's one in York, Pennsylvania this summer. So that could be a great option if you're in that age group. For 12 to 19-year-olds, there might not be as many options. We have one in Stafford, Virginia, so that could be not too far. But I would say the older you are for a preview, the higher your priority is for a preview. So if you're a senior and you've never played an AJGA tournament, you would be that first priority group for the preview. Juniors would then be second, sophomores, and then we'll keep going until the field is full. But I would say if it works for your schedule, yes. If there's not one that works for you, then your next best bet would probably be the qualifiers for any open or junior all-star tournaments that make sense for you from a travel perspective.
But yeah, to piggyback off Phil, that event in Stafford County, Virginia, just probably 45 minutes south of DC, that's technically in our Northeast region, we consider it. But that's a great opportunity that if your son or daughter is 16 to 18 years old and has never played with the AJGA, that event's right in the middle of June. Applications are open right now, and they're open for probably another 3 weeks, 2 or 3 weeks. So that's one that I would highly encourage families look into and take advantage of for sure.
Awesome. Yeah, I grew up in Fairfax, Virginia, so pretty close to Stafford, actually. But yeah, I think that is pretty much all the questions I'm seeing. You guys got anything else to add at all, Adam or Phil, or all good?
I don't think so.
I think I'm good. Yeah, I'd just reiterate that if anyone wants to learn more, has more questions, give us a call on player services. Just call our main line. It's on our website, and just ask for player services. You'll get connected with me or somebody else from our team. We usually have anywhere from 4 to 8 people available on the phones, and we're all well equipped to help with whatever questions you have.
Yeah, thanks, Zach. Thank you for setting this up. Thank
Yeah,
you all for attending.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for hopping on. I know we lost a couple of people towards the end, but it seems like we had a pretty good turnout. And yeah, we'll probably follow up, with a recording of this as well for some of those who missed it. But seriously, Adam and Phil, really appreciate you guys hopping on and doing this for us. This is kind of the first time we've done something like this. So yeah, really appreciate your guys' time and willingness to work with us.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Well, we're going to end the call here. So appreciate you guys all hopping on today.
Take care, Zach.
Yep. Thanks, guys.